This is a demonstration on how to do headers and footers and section breaks. So I'm going to go over this with you, and remembering if you desire, you can always pause the video at any time in order to take notes or whatever would be helpful to you. So if you open the practice document that I gave you, and you have the directions printed, so number one is to open the document. Number two is to make some of the desktop go to a new page section, the same section. So I'm just going to make this a little bigger here. Okay, so here's some of the desktop. If we make it a new page, still in section 1, because see how the whole thing is section 1 right now, there are no divisions. Just so you know, I'm in the print layout view right now, and I'm going to change over to draft view in just a moment, so you can see how that will make a little bit of a difference. Okay, so if I go to page layout and go break, this would be a new page, same section, so this is just a page break. Okay, now notice that it still says section 1, it's still a 2-page document. But if I go to the draft view, I can see what I just did. Let me go ahead and turn on to show hide. Okay, if I have show hide on, I can see the page break right here. Okay, and I can still see my home document. Going to step 3, it says make design can be, so let's find that. Here's design can be. It says to make it the start of a new section, next page. So we want this to become section 2. And if it's a new page, it will become page 3. So if I go into page layout, breaks, and go to section breaks, next page, now it does say it's section 2 and then it's on page 3. And because I'm in draft view and I have on show hide, I can see the section break next page. Step 4 says make analyze what makes. So that's right here, to make that a new page in the same section. Now I can go break and I can say page, or I can just go control enter and that will do the same thing. It'll put in a page break. So we're still in section 2, but now we're on page 4. Number 5 says take the time. Okay, so take the time is right here. If you make a new section next page, we would go into break, section break next page, and now we're in section 3, page 5. On this one, it says use landscape orientation on this section. So notice that we have a 6-inch line right now. If I go to landscape, I'm still in page layout. I can go to orientation, landscape. Notice that now I have a 9-inch typing line because the paper is 11 inches wide, 1 inch on the left, 1 inch on the right. Would use up 2 of the 11 inches, leaving 9 inches for typing. It also says on this, in this section, center the text vertically in section 3. While I am in section 3, if I go to, again, page layout and go to the launch button for page setup, I can go to the layout tab and say vertical alignment center and click OK. And it doesn't look any different now, but what it'll do is it'll give me the same amount of space before and after the text on this page, which happens to be page 5 of 5. So I'm going to save this right now just because it's nice to save your work as you go, so if something bad happens you don't lose it all. So now we're ready to go to step 6. This is change the margins for section 1 to 2 inches for the left and right margins. So I need to position myself back in section 1. I can go control home to do that. So Control Home tells me that I'm back at the top. I'm on page 1 of 5. I'm in section 1. Okay, so when I'm in section 1, I'm going to go to, still on page layout, I'm going to go to Margins. I'm going to go to Custom. I'm going to make the left margin 2 and the right margin 2 and click OK. So that means I have 2 and 2 is 4 inches of margins. 4 from 8.5 is 4.5. So I have a 4.5 inch line for section 1. In section 2, it says to make the left and right margins 1.5. So this is all section 1. If I get in this area here, this will change to section 2. So I'm just going to click anywhere in section 2. See how it says I'm in section 2? I'm going to go back into Margins and Custom and change my left margin to 1.5 and my right margin to 1.5 and say OK. It says in section 3 to make it 1.25 for the left and right. So section 3 is down here. If I click there anywhere, it'll tell me I'm in section 3. I'm going to go into Margins, Custom, and I'm going to make the left margin 1.25. So I'm just going to type in 1.25, go to the right, type in 1.25, click OK. And I'm going to save again. Then it says create a header for section 1, which has word processing at the left, the date at the center, and the page at the right. And it says keep the header from printing on the first page of the document. Well, I need to go Control Home again to get myself back to section 1. And I'm going to go into the print layout view right now. And again, I can see this because I have Show Hide on. So Show Hide is this mic right here, so I can toggle it on and off. Okay, so I can leave it off for right now. Okay, so we want to put in a header, so I'm going to go Insert, and I'm going to go to Header, and I like to go to Edit Header because I have the most control there. And notice that it looks different up here now. We have headers and footer tools. If I want it to be empty on the first page, but I want something on page 2, I'm going to have to click Different First Page. As soon as I do that, it says First Page Header of Section 1. And if we want that to be empty, we just leave it alone. If I click Next right here, I'm still in Section 1, but now I'm on page 2. So this is where I want to have some text in my header. But what I need to think about is the center tab needs to be at 2.25, and I need to have a right tab down here. So what I can do is I can go back to the Home tab. I can go to Paragraph, Tabs, and I can clear these tabs and type a center tab at 2.25, say Center and Set. Okay, so that's going to put a center tab here, and I'm going to put a right tab right here. I'm going to type in 4.5. I'm going to hit the right and say Set and say OK. Okay, so now I'm going to start my header at the left margin, which is word processing. And I'm going to hit my tab key. Now at the center, I'm going to have the date at the center. So I'm going to go Insert, Date, and I'm going to put this short version right here. Okay, and click OK. And I'm going to tab again to get over to the right. Now at the right, it says put the page at the right margin. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to be back in here. I'm going to go back into header, edit, so I can see where this page number is at. So I'm still in the header. I just went back into design so I can see this ribbon. So I'm going to type the word page, and I'm going to hit the space bar, and then I'm going to go to page number, and I want the page number to go at the current position. So I'm going to click right here, and what I want is a simple number, a plain number. So I'm going to click here, and because I'm on page 2, it put in a page 2 there. If you type a 1, every header will say page 1. To see what you've just done, if you go hold your alternate key down and hit F9, do you see how you've got a code here for page and then the merge format? So that's a code. So I'm going to go Alt F9 to toggle that off. So now we have a header on page 2. If we go back to page 1, it's empty, and that's what we want. So let's go back and take a look at page 2 again. Now for step 8, it says on the second section, create a header which has design features at the left margin, and the rest of it will be fine. So I'm going to leave section 1. I'm going to click next to go to section 2. Now, before you do any editing, you need to turn off same as previous. So we're going to click here where it says link to previous. That will go away. Now looking at this, we have a 5.5 inch line. So our center tab and our right tab need to fit a 5.5 inch line. So I'm going to go back to home here for a moment, paragraph, tabs, and I'm going to clear these. Now half of 5.5, I believe is 2.75, so I'm going to type 2.75, put in a center tab and set it. And then we want a right tab at 5.5, so 5.5, right, set, and click OK. One more thing we need to do is change word processing to say design features. So we're going to go design features. Now we had to move the center and the right tab because the when we have margins in one and then we have different margins in another, the center and right tab don't readjust to the length of the line. So now we're into step 9. So we need to go to the next section. So I need to go back to header and footer design. So I'm going to click there. Brings back all these things. And so at this point I'm going to go to section 3 by clicking on next. Now it looks odd here because remember in section 3 we told our text to center vertically. So the body of our text is way down and it makes it look like we have this huge header. Okay, so it's kind of an illusion. Now remember we have a really long line. We have a 9-inch line. I'm going to bring my zoom back just so we can see the whole thing. Now we need to change the center and the right tabs. And before we do any of that, we have to get rid of same as previous, because if we do not, the tabs we set here will also become the tabs in section 2. So I need to toggle this off. I need to think what we have here. We have an 8.5 inch line. So that means we need to have a center tab at 4.25 and a right tab at 8.5. So I'm going to go back to home. I'm going to go to paragraph and tabs and clear these off. and I'm going to set a center tab at 4.25. That's my center tab. Set that, and then I'm going to right tab at the end of my line. So 8.5, right, set, and say OK. So see how that's lined up now much nicer over our over the length of our line. Also in the third section it says to replace design features with layout and adjustments. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and save this right now. Just going to go Control S to save. And we can actually go back into design, and we can go back and look at section 2 and see how it says design features. And then when we go to previous, it'll take us to the nearest section 1 page, which is page 2, and see how this one is fitting our margins. And if we go back one more, it's going to be empty, which is exactly what we want. Step 10 says to create a footer which has your name at the left margin, the time in the center, and CIS 136 at the right margin. It says make the footer appear on all pages. So we're going to, if you didn't see this, you just click on design and you're going to be here. Now we want to go to footer, so I'm going to click down here. I'm going to click on footer, and I'm going to say edit footer, and now we're on the first page footer. So the first thing I need to do is realize I have a 4.5 inch line and my tabs are incorrect. So I'm going to go back to Home, Paragraph, Tabs, Clear All, and I want to have a center tab at 2.25, center, set, and a right tab at 4.5, right, set, OK. Now our tabs are correct. So it says have your name, so I'm just going to go ahead and type my name. I'm going to hit the tab key, which will take me to the center. And at the center it says to put in the time. So I'm going to, at this point I can go back to design again and I can do date and time there. And the time, I'll just say 11:08 a.m. and click OK. And when I did it, it went to 11:09. I'm going to hit tab again. And at the right margin, I just want to type in CIS 136. And it says to make the footer appear on all pages. If we go to next, it's the footers for section 1. Notice that this was the footer for first page of section 1. Now I could retype it, but I can just go ahead and copy this. So I'm going to select it by pointing to it. And I'm going to go Control C. I'm going to go next. And then I'm going to paste. Control V as in Vincent. We'll paste it. Okay, and so it actually remembered the tabs for me. See how I'm fitting here? It's actually centering without me resetting the tabs because I copied what I had in the first one. I'm going to go to section 2 now by clicking next. Okay, now on this one, remember we have different margins. We went from a 4.5 to a 5.5 inch line. So I'm going to have to reset the tabs. I need to toggle this off so I don't disturb section 1. And I need to set a center tab at 2.75 and a right tab at 5. So I'm going to go back to Home, and I'm going to go Paragraph, Tabs, clear these incorrect ones and type 2.75, and that's the center tab, and set that, and then type 5.5, and that's the right tab. I'm going to set that and say OK. So that looks good. Same text, but I had to clean my tabs up. So I can go back here to design again and go to next to get to section 3, because this is footer section 2. If I go next, I'm going to be in the footer of section 3. So I'm just going to make this a little smaller just so you can see everything. Now this is where we have our 8.5 inch line. If I don't turn this off, if I change my tabs, it will disturb what's in section 2. So I need to click on this to toggle it off. And now I can go in here and change my tabs. So I'm going to go back to Home, Paragraph, Tabs, clear these incorrect ones. So we want to have 4.25 be our center tab, and we want to have 8.5 be our right tab. Click Set and say OK, and see how that fit. Okay, so I'm going to save this. I'm going to go Control Home. Okay, and right now I'm in my footer. So if I'm in this view right here where I see header, footer, page number, etc., if I close header and footer, it'll put me back, so I can go Control Home. So just looking at this now, remember on page 1 you didn't want a header, but you did want a footer. On page 2 you wanted a header and a footer, and that's what we have. Page 3 we have a different line length, so our document here has got the tabs readjusted to that. Here's our footer down here. Here's our page 4. And here's our page 5 where it's landscape. And here's our typing in the middle because we told it to center the text vertically on this page. And here's our footer. And this concludes this video.